Katie Morgan was 18 years old when she left Earth for the first time. She took a cargo ship to orbital station, Vareth 7, a massive trading hub that floated in space like a metal city. The station was run by the Korvathi Empire, and dozens of alien species came there to buy and sell goods. Katie got a job as a cargo handler in the lower docking sectors. The work was hard. She moved crates, checked inventory lists, and loaded shipments onto ships. The pay was not great, but she sent most of it back home to her family on Earth. Her mother was sick, and the medical bills were expensive. Katie did not complain. She just worked. The station was a strange place for a human. Most of the aliens there had never seen an Earthborn before, or if they had, they did not care much. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only been traveling among the stars for about 50 years. To the older species, humans were small, weak, and unimportant. The Korvathi were the worst. They were tall, reptilian creatures with thick scales and sharp teeth. They stood over 7 feet tall and looked down at everyone else. They had built this station, and they never let anyone forget it. To them, humans were like insects that had somehow learned to fly spaceships. Katie kept her head down and did her work. She learned quickly that the best way to survive on Vareth 7 was to stay quiet and not make trouble. She woke up early, worked her shifts, ate alone in the worker cafeteria, and went to sleep in her small room. Days passed like this, one after another. The only person who was kind to her was Danny Reeves. He was a human freighter captain, 34 years old, with tired eyes and a warm smile. He had been working in this sector for 10 years and knew how things worked. When he saw Katie struggling to lift a heavy crate on her first day, he walked over and helped her without saying a word. After that, he checked on her whenever his ship docked at the station. "You're doing good, kid," Danny told her one evening. "Just keep your head down and stay out of trouble." Katie nodded. "I'm trying. I know." Danny looked around the cargo bay. "But trouble doesn't always wait for you to find it. Sometimes, it finds you." Katie did not understand what he meant. Not yet. Commander Vex Toreth was a Korvathi officer who oversaw the lower docking sectors. He was big even for his species, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. He walked through the cargo bays like he owned everything and everyone in them. Workers from every species moved out of his way when they saw him coming. Vex had a simple view of the universe. There were the Korvathi, who were strong and powerful, and there was everyone else, who existed to serve them. Humans were at the very bottom of his list. He thought they were weak, fragile, and stupid. He could not understand why the galaxy let them have their own ships and stations. One day, something went wrong with a shipment. A computer error delayed one of Vex's cargo deliveries by 3 hours. It was not a big deal, but Vex was angry. He stormed into Cargo Bay 14 to find out who was responsible. Katie was working there. She had been the one to notice the error and had already fixed it. But Vex did not care about that. He only cared that his shipment was late. He walked up to Katie and looked down at her. She was small, barely 5 feet 4 inches tall. He was over 7 feet. His shadow covered her completely. "You," he said. His voice was deep and cold. "You are the one who delayed my shipment." Katie looked up at him. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her voice calm. "There was a system error, sir. I fixed it as soon as I found it. The shipment is on its way now." 3 hours late, Vex said. "Do you know how much that costs me?" "I'm sorry, sir. It was a computer problem. I can show you the logs if you want to see them." Vex leaned closer. His breath smelled like metal. "I do not want to see your logs. I want you to understand that when you make mistakes, there are consequences." Katie did not look away. "I understand, sir. It won't happen again." For a moment, Vex just stared at her. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You humans," he said. "So small. So weak. Yet you talk like you matter." He turned and walked away. Katie let out a breath she did not know she was holding. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to go back to work. That night, Danny found her in the cafeteria. He sat down across from her and pushed a cup of hot tea toward her. "I heard what happened," he said. Katie wrapped her hands around the cup. It was nothing. He was just angry about his shipment. Danny shook his head. Vex Toreth is not someone you want to notice you, Katie. He's got a reputation. He's hurt workers before. Other species. Ones who couldn't fight back. What happened to them? Danny was quiet for a moment. Some of them left the station. Some of them didn't. Katie felt cold. What am I supposed to do? I can't quit. I need this job. I know. Danny leaned forward. Just stay away from him. Work different shifts if you can. Don't give him a reason to remember you. Katie nodded, but she had a bad feeling in her stomach. She had seen the way Vex looked at her. Like she was something he could break whenever he wanted. She finished her tea and went back to her room. The station hummed around her, full of noise and movement. But Katie felt very alone. She lay down on her small bed and stared at the ceiling. She thought about her mother back on Earth, waiting for the money Katie sent each month. She thought about Danny's warning. She thought about Commander Vex and his cold yellow eyes. She did not know it yet, but Vex had already started watching her. He had marked her as someone who talked back, someone who needed to learn her place. In his mind, she was just a weak little human who had gotten lucky once. But luck does not last forever on a station like Verath 7. Katie closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would be another long day. She would work hard, keep her head down, and hope that Commander Vex would forget about her. 2 weeks passed after Katie's first meeting with Commander Vex. She tried to follow Danny's advice. She changed her shifts, worked in different cargo bays, and avoided the areas where Vex usually walked. For a while, it seemed to work. She did not see him, and she began to hope that he had forgotten about her. But Katie had one friend on the station besides Danny. Her name was Grace Liu, a human woman who worked in maintenance. Grace was 25 years old, with short black hair and quick hands that could fix almost anything. She and Katie ate lunch together whenever their schedules matched. You look tired, Grace said one day. Katie pushed her food around her plate. I've been working extra shifts. Trying to stay away from certain places. Grace nodded. She knew about Vex. Everyone in the lower sectors knew about him. Has he bothered you again? No. Not yet. Good. Maybe he found someone else to bully. Katie wanted to believe that. But deep down, she knew it was not true. She had seen the way Vex looked at her. He was not the type to forget. That evening, Katie was assigned to Cargo Bay 14. She did not want to go there. That was where she had first met Vex. But the schedule was set, and she could not refuse without a good reason. The cargo bay was quiet when she arrived. Most of the other workers had already finished their shifts and gone home. Katie was alone with rows and rows of metal crates. The lights above her buzzed softly. The air smelled like dust and engine oil. She started her work. Check the inventory, scan the crates, update the logs. Simple tasks that she had done 100 times before. She was halfway through her list when she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy footsteps. The kind that made the floor shake. Katie turned around. Commander Vex stood at the entrance to the cargo bay. Beside him was another Corvathi, a guard named Dorax. They were both staring at her. There she is, Vex said. His voice echoed through the empty bay. The little human who thinks she can talk back to a Corvathi commander. Katie's heart started beating faster. She looked around. There was no one else here. No witnesses. No help. Commander, she said, keeping her voice steady. Is there something I can help you with? Commander. Vex walked toward her. Each step was slow and heavy. Yes. There is. You can explain why another one of my shipments was delayed today. Katie blinked. I don't know anything about that, sir. I wasn't working on your shipments today. Lies. Vex stopped in front of her. He was so close that she could see the individual scales on his face. You humans are all the same, weak and dishonest. I'm not lying, Katie said. You can check the logs. I was in Cargo Bay 7 all morning. Vex made a sound like a growl. I don't care about your logs. I know it was you, and now you're going to learn what happens when you cause problems for me. Katie took a step back. Sir, I think there's been a mistake. Let me get my supervisor. He can clear this up. She turned to walk toward the door. She did not get far. Vex's hand shot out. His clawed fingers grabbed the collar of her work jumpsuit, and then he lifted her off the ground. Katie's feet left the floor. She hung in the air, her collar digging into her throat. She grabbed at Vex's arm, trying to free herself, but his grip was like iron. She could not breathe properly. She could not speak. Vex brought her close to his face. His yellow eyes were full of hate. You are nothing, he hissed. A weak little insect. And I'm going to show you what happens to insects who forget their place. Dorax laughed behind him. And then something happened that no one expected. A loud alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed across the cargo bay. A calm female voice spoke from speakers in the walls. Warning, violation detected. Terran Protection Accord, Section 7. Physical assault against a registered Earth citizen. Security response activated. Vex froze. His eyes went wide. From panels in the ceiling, weapon turrets dropped down. They were small, but their barrels glowed with blue light. All of them were pointed directly at Vex. Drop the human immediately, the voice said. Failure to comply will result in lethal force. Vex dropped Katie. She fell to the floor, coughing and gasping for air. Her throat hurt. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her ears. More alarms sounded. Doors at both ends of the cargo bay opened, and security drones flew in. They were round metal balls with weapons built into their sides. They surrounded Vex and Dorax in seconds. Commander Vex Toreth, the voice said. You are under arrest for violation of the Terran Protection Accord. You will be held for tribunal. Do not resist. Vex's face twisted with rage. This is madness. She is just a human, a cargo worker. You cannot arrest me for touching a human. The accord is clear, the voice replied. All physical assaults against registered Earth citizens trigger automatic prosecution. You have been recorded. The evidence is stored. Please do not resist. Dorax tried to run. He got 3 steps before a drone hit him with a stun beam. He fell to the ground, twitching. Vex looked at the drones. He looked at the weapon turrets. He looked at Katie, still on the floor, rubbing her throat. This isn't over, he said to her. Do you hear me? This isn't over. Security officers arrived. They were not Korvathi. They were station police, a mix of different species. They put energy cuffs on Vex's wrists and led him away. He screamed the whole time about his rights, his rank, his family. No one listened. Katie sat on the floor for a long time. She did not move. She did not understand what had just happened. Danny found her there 20 minutes later. He ran to her side and knelt down. Katie, are you okay? What happened? Katie looked at him. Her voice was rough. He grabbed me. He lifted me up. And then, the station attacked him. Danny helped her stand. His face was serious. The Terran Protection Accord. I didn't know it was active on this station. What is that? Danny led her to a bench and sat her down. Years ago, when humans first started working on alien stations, there were problems. Some species thought they could hurt us whenever they wanted. There were beatings, deaths. Humans had no protection. Katie listened. Her throat still hurt. So Earth's government did something about it, Danny continued. They made deals with every major power in this sector. If you want human workers on your stations, you have to agree to the Terran Protection Accord. It's written into the station's core programming. Any physical assault against a registered human triggers an automatic response. Weapons, drones, arrests. Katie looked at her hands. I didn't know. Most people don't. The Korvathi don't like to admit they signed it. But they did, because they needed human trade. Danny put a hand on her shoulder. That bastard learned the hard way. You can't touch us. Not anymore. Katie thought about Vex's face when the weapons appeared. The shock. The fear. For the first time in weeks, she did not feel afraid. What happens now? She asked. Now there's a tribunal, Danny said. And you're going to tell them exactly what he did. Katie nodded. Her throat hurt, but her voice was steady. Good, she said. I will. The tribunal was held 3 days later in the station's judicial chamber. It was a large, round room with high ceilings and seats arranged in circles around a central platform. Representatives from many species sat in the upper rows, watching and whispering to each other. Katie sat in the witness section with Danny beside her. She wore her cleanest clothes, a simple blue shirt and dark pants. Her throat still had faint bruises from where Vex had grabbed her. But she did not try to hide them. Commander Vex stood on the central platform in energy cuffs. He wore his military uniform, but it looked wrinkled and dirty. His yellow eyes moved around the room, looking for anyone who might help him. He did not look scared. He looked angry. High Arbiter Sorvek sat at the main judge's table. He was an old Korvathi with gray scales and tired eyes. He had been a judge for 30 years and had seen many cases. He did not seem happy to be here. 2 other people sat at tables facing the platform. One was a Korvathi lawyer who would speak for Vex. The other was Ambassador Claire Dawson, Earth's representative on the station. Ambassador Dawson was a tall woman with silver hair and calm brown eyes. She was 52 years old and had spent most of her career protecting human interests in space. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The tribunal began. This session is called to order, High Arbiter Sorvek said. We are here to examine the charges against Commander Vex Torath. The charge is violation of the Terran Protection Accord. Section 7. Physical assault against a registered Earth citizen. Vex's lawyer stood up. His name was Korvath, and he had a smooth voice. High Arbiter. My client denies any wrongdoing. The human in question was interfering with official Korvathi business. My client was simply correcting her behavior. Ambassador Dawson did not react. She waited. Sorvek turned to her. Ambassador, you may present the evidence. Dawson stood and pressed a button on her table. A large screen appeared above the platform, showing video from the security cameras in Cargo Bay 14. Everyone watched. They saw Vex walk up to Katie. They saw him accuse her. They saw her try to explain, try to show him the logs. They saw her turn to leave, and they saw Vex grab her by the collar and lift her off the ground. The video showed Katie's feet dangling in the air. It showed her grabbing at his arm, trying to breathe. It showed Vex bringing her close to his face and speaking to her. Then, the alarms went off, and the video ended. The room was quiet. Ambassador Dawson turned off the screen. The evidence is clear, she said. Commander Vex physically assaulted Katie Morgan, a registered Earth citizen employed legally on this station. This is a direct violation of the Terran Protection Accord, which the Korvathi Empire signed 12 years ago. Korvath stood up again. The accord was meant to address serious violence. This was a minor incident. No lasting harm was done. No lasting harm? Dawson's voice was still calm, but there was steel in it now. Commander Vex lifted an 18-year-old girl off the ground by her throat. He held her there while she struggled to breathe. He threatened her. If the station's automated systems had not intervened, what do you think would have happened next? Korvath did not answer. The doors at the back of the chamber opened. Everyone turned to look. A Korvathi walked in. He was even bigger than Vex, with dark scales and gold decorations on his uniform. His presence filled the room. Other Korvathi in the audience stood up out of respect. General Torath, Vex's father. The general walked to the front of the chamber and stood beside his son. He looked at High Arbiter Sorvek with cold eyes. This tribunal is a waste of time, General Torath said. His voice was deep and powerful. My son is a decorated military officer. He was disciplining a worker who caused problems with his shipments. This is not a crime. This is leadership. Sorvek shifted in his seat. General, The tribunal process must be followed. The accord is clear. Over 1. Thank you for watching. I'm in 9. The accord was a mistake, the general said. We signed it because we needed human workers and human trade. But we never intended for it to be used against our own officers. He turned to look at Katie. His eyes were full of contempt. Look at her. Small, weak, afraid, and you want to punish my son because he touched her? Ambassador Dawson stepped forward. General Toreth. With respect. Your opinion of humans is not relevant here. What is relevant is that your empire signed a legally binding agreement. That agreement says that any physical assault against a registered Earth citizen will be prosecuted. No exceptions. And if we refuse? General Toreth asked. What will you do? Declare war? Dawson smiled, but there was no warmth in it. No, General. We will not declare war. We will simply cancel all human trade agreements with the Korvathi Empire. We will remove all human workers from your stations. We will close our markets to your goods, and we will tell every other species in this sector exactly why. The room went quiet again. General Toreth stared at her. For a long moment, no one spoke. You would not dare, he said finally. We have already prepared the documents, Dawson replied. Earth's government authorized them yesterday. If your son is not held accountable, they go into effect immediately. She paused. The choice is yours, General. One officer's pride, or your empire's economy. General Toreth's face twisted with rage. But he did not speak. He knew she was not bluffing. High Arbiter Sorvek cleared his throat. Ambassador Dawson, please call your witness. Dawson nodded. I call Katie Morgan to the platform. Katie stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she walked to the center of the room and stood in front of everyone. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her. Korvathi eyes. Human eyes. The eyes of species she did not even recognize. Miss Morgan, Dawson said gently, please tell the tribunal what happened in Cargo Bay 14. Katie took a breath. Her voice was quiet, but steady. I was working my shift. Commander Vex came in with a guard. He said I had delayed his shipment. But I hadn't. I was in a different cargo bay that morning. I tried to explain. I offered to show him the logs. I tried to walk away to get my supervisor. She paused. The bruises on her throat seemed to darken under the lights. He grabbed me by my collar. He lifted me off the ground. I couldn't breathe properly. He said I was nothing. He said he was going to teach me what happens to people who forget their place. And then? Dawson asked. And then the alarms went off. The weapons came out. He dropped me. Katie looked at Vex. He was staring at her with pure hatred. He said it wasn't over. But then the security drones took him away. High Arbiter Sorvek leaned forward. Miss Morgan, do you have anything else to say? Katie thought about it. She thought about her mother back on Earth, waiting for money to pay for medicine. She thought about all the other humans working on stations like this one, hoping that no one would hurt them. Yes, she said. I came here to work. I came here to help my family. I didn't cause any trouble. I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to do my job. She looked at General Toreth. I'm not weak because I'm small. I'm not nothing because I'm human. And your son doesn't get to hurt me just because he thinks he's better than me. The room was silent. High Arbiter Sorvek closed his eyes for a moment. Then he spoke. The evidence is clear. The testimony is clear. Commander Vex Toreth is guilty of violating the Terran Protection Accord. He looked at Vex. You are sentenced to 5 years in the station's isolation block. May this time teach you what you failed to learn elsewhere. Vex screamed. He screamed about injustice, about human lies, about his father's power. Guards came and dragged him away. General Toreth watched with a face like stone, then turned and left without a word. The tribunal was over. Ambassador Dawson walked over to Katie. She put a hand on her shoulder. You did well, she said quietly. Better than you know. What do you mean? Dawson looked around the room at all the watching faces. Every species on this station just saw what happens when someone hurts a human. They saw that we protect our own. And they saw that even a general's son is not above the law. She smiled. You just sent a message to the entire sector, Katie. And they won't forget it. Katie nodded. She was tired. Her throat hurt. But for the first time since she had arrived on the station, she felt like she mattered. She walked out of the tribunal with her head high. The isolation block was in the deepest part of the station. No windows. No natural light. Just gray walls and gray floors and gray ceilings. The air was always the same temperature. The lights never changed. Time moved slowly there, like thick water. Vex sat in his cell. It was a small room with a bed, a toilet, and a single door. The door had no handle on the inside. It only opened when someone outside pressed a button. 3 months had passed since the tribunal. 3 months of nothing. 3 months of staring at walls and thinking about what had happened. At first, Vex was angry. He paced his cell and hit the walls until his knuckles bled. He shouted at the guards. He demanded to see his father, his lawyers, anyone who could help him. No one came. After a while, the anger faded. It was replaced by something else. Confusion. Disbelief. How had this happened to him? He was Commander Vex Torath. His father was a general. He had commanded ships and led soldiers into battle. And now he was sitting in a tiny room because he had touched a human girl. A human girl. Small, weak, worthless. Except she had not been worthless. The whole galaxy had protected her. Weapons had pointed at his head because of her. He had lost everything because of her. Vex did not understand. Every week, a human came to the isolation block. His name was Father Ben Howard, and he was a chaplain. He visited prisoners of all species to offer comfort and conversation. Most prisoners ignored him or cursed at him. Vex did both. Go away, Vex said the first time Ben came to his door. I don't want to talk to a human. Ben just nodded. That's okay. I'll come back next week. He did. And the week after that. And the week after that. Vex tried ignoring him. He tried threatening him. He tried everything. But Ben kept coming back. He would sit outside Vex's door and speak through the small window. You don't have to talk, Ben said one day. I'll just sit here for a while. Sometimes it helps to know someone is nearby. It doesn't help me, Vex said. Nothing helps me. Maybe not today, Ben replied. But time changes things. Weeks passed. Vex found himself waiting for Ben's visits. Not because he liked the human. He told himself he just wanted someone to argue with. But slowly, the arguments became conversations. Why do you keep coming here? Vex asked one day. I was arrested for hurting one of your kind. Don't you hate me? Ben thought about it. No, he said. I don't hate you. Why not? Hate is heavy, Ben said. I've found that carrying it hurts me more than anyone else. So I try not to carry it. Vex shook his head. You humans are strange. Someone hurts you, and you don't even want revenge. Sometimes we do, Ben admitted. Humans can be cruel. We've done terrible things to each other throughout our history. Wars, slavery, genocide. We're not innocent. Vex looked at him through the window. Then why do you act like you're better than us? We don't think we're better, Ben said. We just learned some hard lessons. We learned that protecting the weak is more important than punishing them. We learned that laws matter more than strength. We learned that every person deserves dignity. Even the small ones, especially the small ones. Vex was quiet for a long time. The girl I grabbed, he finally said. Katie. She was nobody. A cargo worker. She had no power, no connections, no importance. In my world, someone like that exists. To serve those above her. That's how it's always been. Ben nodded slowly. And in our world, someone like Katie matters just as much as a general's son. Maybe more, because she has no one else to protect her. That makes no sense. It does to us. Ben leaned closer to the window. Vex, can I tell you something about Earth? Vex said nothing, so Ben continued. For most of our history, the strong ruled the weak. Kings crushed peasants. Empires conquered nations. The rich used the poor like tools. It was exactly like what you describe. Power decided everything. What changed? We did. Slowly, painfully. After enough wars and enough suffering, we started to believe something different. We started to believe that strength should be used to protect, not to dominate. We built laws that applied to everyone. Even the powerful. Especially the powerful. Ben paused. The Terran Protection Accord exists because we remember what it was like to be the ones being crushed, and we decided that no human would ever be crushed like that again, not if we could help it. Vex stared at the ceiling of his cell. Your laws reached across space to protect one girl. One small, insignificant girl. She's not insignificant, Ben said. Not to us. Something shifted in Vex's chest. It was uncomfortable. It felt like a bone that had been broken and was slowly healing wrong. I never thought of her as a person, he admitted. I never thought of any human as a person. You were just things. Animals that learned to talk. And now? Vex did not answer. He did not know the answer. Ben stood up. I'll see you next week, Vex. Wait. Vex pressed his hand against the door. Why do you keep coming? I haven't changed. I'm still the same person who grabbed that girl. Ben smiled sadly. Maybe. Or maybe you're starting to ask questions you never asked before. That's how change begins. He walked away, and Vex was alone again. The months continued to pass. Vex stopped hitting the walls. He stopped shouting at guards. He started thinking. Really thinking. About his life. About his empire. About all the people he had looked down on and hurt because he thought they didn't matter. Meanwhile, on the upper levels of the station, life went on. Katie kept working in the cargo bays. But things were different now. Other workers treated her with respect. Not because they feared her, but because they had seen what happened when someone tried to hurt her. Species that had ignored humans before now nodded at them in hallways. Corvathi officers who had once bullied human workers now kept their distance. The story of Katie Morgan had spread across the station. The girl who brought down a commander. The girl whose empire protected her from across the stars. Danny noticed the change too. People are talking about you, he told Katie one evening. You're famous. Katie shrugged. I didn't do anything special. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. Danny smiled. You've got a good head on your shoulders, Katie. You're going to be okay. Katie thought about Vex, sitting somewhere in the isolation block. She wondered if he ever thought about her. She wondered if he understood why what he did was wrong. She did not hate him. She was not sure why. Maybe she was too busy working to hate anyone. Or maybe, like Ben had said, hate was just too heavy to carry. She finished her shift and walked to her small room. The station hummed around her, full of aliens and humans and machines all working together. It was not a perfect place, but it was better than it used to be. And somewhere deep in the station, behind a gray door with no handle, Vex sat in the darkness and thought about a small human girl who had changed everything. He would not. 5 years is a long time to spend behind a door. Vex had counted every day. At first, he marked them on the wall with his claw. Then he stopped. The marks just reminded him of how much time he had lost. Better to let the days blur together, to sleep and wake and sleep again, without thinking too much about time. But finally, the door opened. A guard stood outside. Not a Corvathi guard. The station had stopped assigning Corvathi to watch him years ago. This one was a Velen, a small purple creature with 4 arms. Vex Toreth, the guard said. Your sentence is complete. You are free to go. Vex stood up slowly. His legs were stiff. His muscles had weakened from years of doing nothing. He walked out of the cell and followed the guard through long hallways toward the exit. At the final checkpoint, they gave him a bag with his old clothes and a card with some credits. Not much. Just enough to survive for a few weeks. Your military rank has been removed, the guard told him. You are no longer a commander. You have no official status. Vex nodded. He had expected this. One more thing, the guard said. Your father has sent a message. Vex looked up. For a moment, hope flickered in his chest. Maybe his father had forgiven him. Maybe he would help him start over. The guard handed him a small screen. The message was short. You have brought shame to our family. From this day forward, you are no longer my son. Do not contact me. Do not speak my name. You are dead to me. Vex read the message twice. Then he handed the screen back to the guard. His face showed nothing. But inside, something cold settled in his stomach. Thank you, he said. His voice was flat. I understand. The guard opened the final door, and Vex walked out into the station. Everything had changed. The station looked different. Brighter. Cleaner. There were more humans walking around than he remembered. They moved with confidence, talking and laughing like they belonged here. Because they did belong here now. Other species walked past Vex, without looking at him. He was nobody. A tall Corvathi, in dirty clothes, with nowhere to go. No one moved out of his way. No one showed him respect. He was just another face in the crowd. Vex walked through the station for hours. He was not sure where he was going. He just walked. Past shops and restaurants and offices. Past families and traders and workers. Past everything he used to own and command. Eventually, he found himself in the lower docking sectors, the cargo bays. He stopped walking. He knew this place. Cargo Bay 14 was just around the corner. This was where it had all started. Where he had grabbed a small human girl and destroyed his entire life. Vex walked to the entrance of the cargo bay and looked inside. Workers were moving crates and checking inventory, just like before. Humans and aliens working side by side. In the corner, someone was giving orders. A young woman with brown hair and a confident voice, Katie Morgan. She was older now. 23 instead of 18. Her hair was a little longer, and she carried herself differently. She stood straighter. She spoke louder. She was not a scared cargo handler anymore. She was a shift supervisor. Vex watched her for a long time. He thought about turning around and leaving. He thought about running away and never coming back. He thought about a lot of things, but then he thought about Father Ben, about all those conversations through the window, about the questions he had asked himself in the darkness of his cell. He walked into the cargo bay. Security drones noticed him immediately. They flew closer, their weapons ready. Vex stopped and held up his hands. I'm not here for trouble, he said. I just want to talk. The drones stayed close, but they did not fire. Other workers stopped what they were doing and stared at him. They knew who he was. Everyone on the station knew the story of Commander Vex Torath. Katie turned around. She saw him standing there, surrounded by drones, with his hands up. Her face showed nothing. No fear. No anger. Just calm recognition. She walked toward him. The drones moved aside to let her pass. They stood facing each other. 5 years ago, he had lifted her off the ground like she weighed nothing. Now she looked at him like an equal. Commander Vex, she said. Not Commander anymore, Vex replied. Just Vex. Katie nodded slowly. I heard you were getting out today. I wondered if I would see you. Vex did not know what to say. He had practiced speeches in his cell. Apologies. Explanations. Excuses. But now, standing in front of her, all those words felt empty. I came to ask you something, he finally said. What? Vex looked at the ground. It was hard to make the words come out. Is there any work here? Any job? I don't care what it is. I just need something to do. Katie studied him. Her eyes were sharp and careful. She was looking for tricks, for lies, for any sign that this was some kind of game. Why here? She asked. Why come to me? Vex thought about it. Because this is where I broke everything. Because you're the one I hurt. And because, he paused. Because someone once told me that change begins with asking questions you've never asked before. I've been asking a lot of questions. Now I need to find answers. Katie did not respond right away. She looked at the drones, then at the other workers, then back at Vex. The work here is hard, she said. The shifts are long. The pay is bad. Nobody will respect you. You'll be doing the same job I did when I first arrived. I know. And if you cause any trouble, if you hurt anyone, if you even look at someone wrong, those drones will put you down. Do you understand? I understand. Katie reached into her pocket and pulled out a datapad. She tapped a few buttons and handed it to him. Report to Bay 7. Tomorrow at 6 in the morning. You'll be moving crates. Don't be late. Vex took the datapad. His hands were shaking slightly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Katie said. Thank me in a year if you're still here. She turned and walked back to her work. The drones moved away from Vex, but they kept watching him. He stood there for a moment, holding the datapad, feeling something strange in his chest. It took him a while to recognize the feeling. It was hope. Small and fragile, like a flame in the wind. But it was there. The next morning, Vex showed up at Cargo Bay 7 at 5:45. He was given a uniform and assigned to a work team. No one talked to him. No one wanted to be near the fallen Korvathi commander. He did not complain. He just worked. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Vex hauled crates. He checked inventory. He did the same jobs that Katie had done 5 years ago. His back hurt. His arms were sore. He went home exhausted every night and woke up tired every morning. But he kept working. Sometimes he saw Katie in the hallways. She never stopped to talk, but she nodded at him. A small acknowledgement. He was there. He was trying. One day, about a year after his release, a new worker joined the cargo team. A young Korvathi, fresh from the home world, full of arrogance and contempt for humans. Vex watched him sneer at a human worker and call her a weak insect. Something rose up in Vex's chest. Not anger. Something else. Something that felt like recognition. He walked over to the young Korvathi and put a hand on his shoulder. Let me tell you a story, Vex said quietly. It's about what happens when you forget that everyone matters. Across the cargo bay, Katie watched. A small smile crossed her face. Then she went back to work. The station hummed around them all. Humans and aliens, working side by side. The laws protected everyone equally. The strong could not crush the weak, and sometimes, just sometimes, the ones who fell the furthest found a way to climb back up. Vex did not become a hero. He did not redeem himself with one grand act. He just kept working, day after day, year after year, learning what he had been too proud to learn before. And every time he passed Cargo Bay 14, he remembered. He remembered a small human girl who had taught him that strength is not about how hard you can hit, it's about how you treat the people who cannot hit back. That was the lesson the Korvathi learned that day. Humans don't build laws to destroy. They build them to teach. And sometimes, the best lessons take 5 years behind a door to understand.